Welcome back to On Right Podcast. Here you have Elijah alongside Grant. Last week of no football here. We have Michigan football coming up. Last week of Lions preseason just happened. A couple more weeks of practice for them. We're going to be in full force. Hard Knocks episode was yesterday. I'm going to throw it over to you here. Just kind of what was your overall thoughts of the episode three of five?
I think it was four, the fourth one. But yes, yeah. But yeah, no, yeah, fourth episode. I think they got one more next week. This episode, I think this was probably my favorite one so far. I just liked just the intensity in it, with it being like the last preseason game of the season or of preseason, and then yeah, I mean they had the player led practice, which is kind of interesting. I mean that's something I'm not all that much of a fan of, but whatever. And I just thought the fact that they were, it was the cut like the last week before they start making cuts. So, I love the conversation with personnel and, Campbell talking with Brad Holmes about, how tough it is to figure out who they want to keep and who should stay. I just think overall it was a solid episode and just, had more players, more interactions, heard a little more from Jared Goff here and there. Heard heard more Craig Reynolds story, the running back. Got like some more kind of like live action of him just doing, making some good plays. So I would say overall it was an exciting episode.
Yeah, no, I think they continue to take like a unique approach to how I feel like they're filming Hard Knocks this time around. But we finally got somebody else other than Dan Campbell, and some of the coaches. So I think we needed to hear from Jared Goff. Second year here. His team won the Super Bowl last year without him. We don't really know what he's going to be necessarily. This is his last year here. Are we going to keep him around for another year or two? I think he's probably the biggest story, one top three probably on the team, and this is the first time we actually heard anything from him with in depth. But the player led practice was kind of interesting. I thought that was interesting compared to all of the coaches sitting in the room and kind of making harsh decisions about who's going to be on the team.
Yeah,
them talking real black and white about players, calling them bad, calling them trash, saying and then some debates with between different coaches about certain players and what they personally think those players like Craig Reynolds mean to the team. And
yeah,
and how other players might act if you cut them. One of the coaches said, or Deuce said, if you cut him, you might be getting talked to about some of the linemen. I think that was kind of a joke, but it's one of those, half joke, half true, probably
yeah.
statements where he's a glue guy.
Yeah. I was about to say it's one of the things where it's like, when you get down to like, trimming that roster, and they had a legit go from like 80 guys to 53 in a span of, 4 or 5 days, something like that. So it's always interesting to where, Reynolds may not be like the most talented or, running back in the room or, but when you hear like coaches talking about how like the O line loves them because of they trust them in like, pass blocking, and you hear the running back coach say like they do stay like, yeah, like, you might have some problems if you get rid of him. So it's kind of crazy hearing about, you know, obviously every player in the NFL is talented, but it's cool to hear about how some of them guys, get to stay around just because of like what they mean to the team and just like what other players think of them. And I think it's pretty telling that, he was on 4 different teams before he got to the Lions. And, for some reason he's been sticking there at least for the last year and a half. So it was interesting to hear them kind of go like, pound the table for him in that environment.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say he's going to be a 500-yard back for us this year necessarily, but I do find it interesting that coaches with boots on the ground. The offensive line coach, I don't know, Hank something up. I'm not going to act like I know his name. And then Deuce, boots on the ground coaches are saying that we need him around, but then the head coach was trying to put him on a chopping block. I
Right.
think that's kind of a despair too, as well. It's kind of where's your head at, where other coaches are deliberately saying you cannot cut this guy, and then he's the first name you throw out at least on this film. So that's kind of interesting to me. But I think a couple of things about that is the coach talked about players in two buckets, and I think that was interesting because that's kind of the dynamic you always hear, even down to like middle school, high school. Players that do everything right, show up. They might not be the greatest talent, but they do everything right. And then players that have it all talent wise, and then come late to practice, don't want to practice, maybe, things of that nature. And and that's kind of interesting to hear them talk about that because, I don't know. I don't know if that's something I feel like coaches would necessarily say out loud. I feel like that's kind of an unwritten rule. And are you going to say that you're purposely going to keep more talented, lazy players around?
Yeah.
It's kind of that's interesting to even hear somebody kind of put out loud because most times that's the thing that people understand that, but it's never said. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good call. And I mean, I think just another thing with episode 2 is like, I know we kind of talked about how physical the practices were, but I think I kind of appreciated this one being like, they're like, okay, this is the last practice, like before, to kind of end things. And I mean, it was crazy. Like, once again, just seeing Hutch do what he does, like he's definitely looking like he belongs. And I know it's still early on, but I always, talk about. I think I told you a few different times, like they say, players are very like people know very early on if the guys got it and don't. Now, granted, when they get in, we'll see what happens to them. When he starts playing in the regular season and such. But I mean, just showing him he's winning his matchup 1-on-1. Quite often in the backfield a lot during the practice. Just really doing his thing. Even when I think he played. The starters played some extended time against the Steelers, and he was right there. I think he might have had credit for like a half a sack. So just seeing, his continued production. Because yeah, I mean, I still feel like the defense is going to be in a tough spot this year to where, they're going to be giving up, quite a bit of yards, quite a bit of points. So hopefully he can at least, help with the pass rush and make an immediate impact. But yeah, I mean, I think overall just the intensity with that and even the game. I mean, seeing Doyle throw that pick and then you see in real time like Campbell's like, what was that? You know what I mean? So it's just like you kind of knew right there, like he's done. Like that was probably the nail in the coffin because I don't think he came back into the game after that. They let Blau kind of go in there and redeem himself for he might have, but
yeah, I don't think so either.
I'm not sure if he did. Yeah, but I don't think he did. At least at that time, maybe in the second half. But Blau came in there and was fighting. You kind of saw that in real time where he's getting beat up.
Yeah.
Like O line not blocking, he's still getting the ball out. Limping around. Like they're saying on the sideline, like, does he want to come out? You think he'll come out? And then people are like, no, there's no way he's coming out. Like just
Yeah, you want that rough.
seeing that. Yeah, like I said, just redeeming himself. I mean, it's unfortunate that he ended up getting waived anyways, and they, ended up moving on and getting a better backup quarterback. But I mean, at least he wasn't cut. So I'm pretty sure if you get waived, you can, like, if nobody else claims him, the Lions just pick him back up and throw him on a practice squad. That's probably what they want to do with him anyway. So
yeah, no, I mean, I think he had an interesting. I think you seen in the second game when he fumbled and essentially cost the game.
yeah,
You seen right there when he was just demoralized. He lay. I brought it up then that week, but he laid on the ground. He grabbed his face mask. So I think right then and there, he kind of, you could tell he was demoralized. You could tell that was a major shot or blow towards his chances on the team. You're you know directly correlated to a loss here. So I think that was always tough. And then, but I do appreciate him going out there and fighting. But the NFL, not for long. And
yeah.
it is what it is. It is a business out here at the end of the day. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I think the team is shaping up okay. I think, like you said, the biggest question mark is that defense. They
Yeah.
had a whole segment on them. I think what did they say? They completed in practice 16 of 18 passes on them. And that's Jared Goff and David Blau and all them. So you know that's not necessarily Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes.
Right. People that, yeah, you
Yeah,
seeing guys that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I know we not trying to get too frustrated about it, but like getting Jameson Williams, trading all them picks for him, he can't play until week 10. I mean, I get it. Like he probably be a great player for a long time. That's the hope. But like it just depends on how long they want to make this rebuilding process. Like I think we could have, definitely gotten a couple other players with them draft picks, some surefire guys. I mean, it's unfortunate that our best linebacker is a sixth rounder rookie. We'll see how we'll see how that translates when he's seeing, Saquon and all them coming off the backfield. You know what I mean? When it's a kind of a different ball game.
yeah,
Because he looks good, but and he's playing. I'd say he's playing against like the ones here and there too, but it's not always like everybody's won. So
right.
it
It's
is
long 16 or 17 games.
right,
And
right.
the offensive coordinator is going to find out what you can't do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a fact. So yeah, I mean, like I said, the roster's starting to shape out, and we'll kind of be interested to kind of see how the next episode starts off. I'm assuming it'll be guys clean out lockers and just hopefully they're kind of able to throw a couple more players into the mix. I'd love to see, maybe Jameson just not really with it, but at least kind of see him talk a little bit.
Yeah,
Say
one's in. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't think I've even like seen him like in passing or like even like highlight him on in the meeting rooms or anything. So I don't. Maybe it's just like maybe it's not his thing and he's not playing, so they're like not really trying to give him the spotlight. But yeah, like I said, this episode was a strong one, and I'm looking forward to the finale.
No, I agree with that. And they're a few weeks away from that first game. But this is game week for Michigan.
Yeah,
First first game is here upon us. This Saturday, high noon. Kickoff. I know I'm excited is an understatement. Coming off Big Ten championship, coming off playoff appearance, and yeah. So no, I'm excited to see what we can cook up this year. Harbaugh said a little something about the quarterbacks. So I'm gonna throw it over to you just to see what's your thoughts on what Harbaugh announced about the quarterbacks. What's your thoughts on week one?
yeah. I mean, I think best case scenario, like I know we talked about. I said how I was pretty much at peace, like letting both of them go at it. But it worked out to where I didn't even think about them even doing this, but it works out to where our schedule, those first three games are this would be, wins, like running away with it. To where it's like, yeah, best player, best quarterback wins. Best quarterback will start that third game. So I was always under the impression that they'd go with both, which I wasn't gonna be mad about because they're both great players and it worked out last year. But the fact that he's kind of letting them just figure it out on the field, I mean, it's a lot of things will come into play with that. I mean, you got, the players be a little more juiced up to play with, JJ. I'm sure they'll be working to get the ball around more when he's in. I'm interested to see how much they let, Cade kind of get things rolling. I'll be interested to see if they play the whole game. Like, do they put in,
Right.
will they put in like Davis Warren instead of putting in the whoever's not going to start the game? Just to kind of like, I don't think like if Cade started this weekend and putting in JJ, at halftime and he has better stats than, Cade, and then or vice versa for the next week. I don't know what that could look like or what that scenario, how that could come out to play. But yeah, I mean, this is a Jim Harbaugh type deal. I think I told you at one point. I mean, I feel like we had like Alex Smith and Pat Mahomes, or Alex Smith and Kaepernick. I mean, I feel like we're kind of in that same situation where everybody around is just like, they want Harbaugh to pull the trigger, but I think he just. I don't blame him. He likes what he sees in Cade, and Cade ain't really giving him a reason quite yet.
Right.
Take the keys away completely.
Yeah. No. So I don't want to misspeak. So Cade starts week one versus
Colorado State.
Colorado State. Okay. So I know I agree with. I didn't really think about the players potentially being more amped to play with one quarterback over another quarterback. I do think there could be some of that because they're gonna probably run different. They're gonna mirror each other to a certain degree, but different offenses.
Yeah.
At least different wrinkles within the same offense, I should say. But yeah, no. So that's interesting. I know when we originally talked about this, I said I would start JJ McCarthy off the gate the first couple of games, and if he fumbled it, give it to Cade. But I guess I can see them trying to do both.
Yeah.
As far as whether one would get in the game or if not. So if let's say Cade goes out there and the squad does their thing and they're blowing them out, come fourth quarter, I would imagine you would bring in the other guy, just to kind of get his feet wet. You don't want to. I don't know. I don't really see the reason to bring in a third quarterback necessarily in the mix.
Yeah.
You probably bring in another guy just to kind of get their feet wet. That might be a slight disadvantage if you get a quarter of one game and then come in the next game ready to roll. But I do think it might be kind of set up for JJ overall because you're playing Hawaii. Second game, it's a night game. That crowd is going to be crazy, and people are going to be ready for him. So I think that might be the fix. Might be kind of in on that in itself.
Good call.
I'm kind of excited to see what. I mean, I just want a game of JJ McCarthy. Let's see what he can do. Let's see if he, if he can. He's great in spurts. Let's see if he can put it together for a game.
Yeah, and I think both of the teams they're playing are pretty bad. Like Hawaii just lost to the worst team in the SEC by like 45 points last Saturday, maybe even more than that. And Colorado State, I mean, they're D1, but they're like like lower end. So and yeah, I just can't wait to see what they're gonna do because I mean, what if like JJ comes in and throws a pick or something, you know what I'm saying? Or like, they decide they just want to run the ball because, it's 45 nothing at half or, 38 nothing at half to where there's a lot of different scenarios, but I feel you. I mean, it, probably make a ton of sense to kind of, throw Davis in the mix, but
No,
I mean,
I think we know what we have in Cade for the
yeah,
most part. Solid, dependable, not going to turn the ball over too much.
right.
Also, not going to light the scoreboard up.
Yeah.
He's just very solid to, more than a game manager, but not great. And
Right.
And I think we don't know exactly what we have with JJ. So I think, if he does go out there and throw a pick, then that would be alarming to me. You shouldn't be throwing a pick versus Hawaii. This isn't Michigan State or Penn State or Iowa on the road or any of those type of nights. This should be pitch and catch.
Yeah.
It's simple as it gets. And if you are turn the ball over, fumbling, that's what he did for State last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to see a perfect, clear game from him. Now my question is, what if he does? What if he's lighting it up and he still throws a pick or two? What if it's like a 4 touchdown 2 pick game, and you're like, damn, what do we do?
Yeah.
Receiver really dropped that one. Then we start talking ourselves into it. So,
right.
I think that's where it really comes in a problem. Or if he throws us like a 4-1 game, we get deceived.
Yeah.
And then, then come Big Ten, it's a 1 touchdown 4 pick game.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather roll with the guy who's not going to have any turnovers with maybe 1 touchdown.
Right. Yeah. So you roll Cade?
If JJ ain't playing perfect ball, really, I will. You got to be playing damn near perfect.
It'll be real
telling. Because I know the mistakes going to come because that's the type of player he is. So we need perfect versus, sister of the poor schools. We need.
Yeah. I know one thing for sure. Like, I know that big test going to Iowa at Iowa. Like, we find a way to lose that game, it's going to be JJ's show from that. It'll be from
this 100%.
Turn the page, 100%. And yeah, like I said earlier, this is just such a hardball type thing. Like we've been talking since even early this time last year of like,
When we start them? Yeah.
Yeah. And it just, like I said, it worked out perfectly to where we get to do a test run with a couple cupcake schools.
Knock on wood.
And we got, and then we got I ain't even knocking on wood. If they losing these games, I'm not even going. And then they got UConn to like really be like, all right, like this is your show, whoever it's gonna be. Let's get this thing rolling.
I think UConn is pretty damn bad too.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, they probably. I mean, they might be like the worst.
Yeah. I remember they were worse than Hawaii. Couple winless. Yeah.
Right. Hawaii at least got the sunshine and everything. They probably get a couple players. Connecticut, yes, that's just Connecticut. You go in there.
Yeah. You might as well go to Penn State or somewhere. Yeah, you might as well just go somewhere else.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
no, I agree. No, I'm excited for Michigan football. A couple, although we like the big time games, I do think this time around it might be safest for us to have a couple games where we can figure it out a little bit. I know last year we were kind of nervous about the Washington game. They turned out to be ass. But we don't even have none of those maybe surprise teams. We had, like you said, a couple teams we should wash up and really figure out, what we're doing here. So
right.
I'm excited. And then, I think we're ranked eighth in the preseason. Only Big Ten school ahead of us, Ohio.
Yep.
They're highly ranked. Obviously, they're fucking loaded. But we'll cross that bridge when we get here. I think we got some good. Michigan State. Mel Tucker, I'm excited to see what they're going to put together this time around.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other obviously Big Ten schools always show up. Iowa, Penn State.
Yeah.
I think obviously the Big Ten ain't never a easy run here, so I think we got some great football ahead of us.
Yeah, anything we see, like we don't see Wisconsin this year. We see Illinois. The schedule is favorable overall.
Mm-hmm.
All we really got to worry about is just Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio, and obviously going to Iowa too. That can always be.
That's what cost us a couple years back.
Yeah, we would have been outright to the playoff. We would have been able to win that game, even losing to Ohio. But yeah, it's so it's finally here. We've been waiting. It's been some dog days of summer trying to get to this point, but on a couple more games or a couple more days, we'll be kicking things off.
No, for sure. You got anything else for the people?
That's all I got, man. Go blue, and we'll see what Cade got for us this weekend.
Sir, go blue.